You're watching Dog Ear Musings, and I'm Monica. And today we're going to be doing a kind of reaction video on libraries. So I work in a library, I'm a librarian, I've been to library school, and so I'm going to give you my personal take on these scenes and how we as a culture kind of view libraries. Just as a disclaimer, this is my own personal opinion, not anybody else's, and this is just for entertainment value. So the first video that we're going to watch is from the famous musical Music Man. Now there are many different versions of the Music Man, but the Music Man that I love the best is the one that Matthew Broderick is in and Kristen Chenoweth. Now Kristen Chenoweth plays the character Marion the librarian. Alright, so I paused the scene right away here because Marion the librarian, you'll see she's like kind of wearing her like pre-Victorian. Actually, I don't know what time period this is. This movie always confuses me on what time period it is. But she's wearing her Anne of Green Gable-esque dress, and she's immediately coming over to this couple that isn't even being loud. They're just like being slightly joyful, and she automatically goes, shh. And this is like not something that we do in public libraries anymore. Obviously, we don't want people to like go around the library screaming or causing anything that would be disrupting for other patrons. But if you're just making general noise in the library, we're certainly not gonna come around and shush you for it.
Explanations, please. I'm only in town a short time, and the sadder but wiser girl for me.
Will you please make your selection and leave?
Alright, so Marion also is kind of like framed as like this coy lady who is very prim and proper. She's the stereotypical librarian who's gonna take her glasses off and her ponytail down and is gonna be like that romantic interest for this lead. And I think that's pretty hilarious that that's how culture kind of views librarians in some ways, because if I'm acting coy to you, I'm not actually acting coy. I'm establishing professional boundaries.
Librarian.
Oh la la, he wants to take out the librarian. Generally, singing isn't allowed in the library. So the movie, in terms of accuracy, is like playing in on all the tropes. You've got your small town library where everybody knows everybody else and everybody knows the librarian. And then the librarian, even though Kristen Chenoweth is objectively a very like conventionally attractive person, is portrayed as like this character who, for whatever reason, no one wants to go out with her. It's a surprise that the Music Man wants to go out with her. So it's not very accurate, but it plays into all the stereotypes of what a small town librarian is. So the next one is going to be a little bit spooky. We're going to watch the scene from It. Alright, so first of all, we have the archives of the town. Now, this is actually pretty accurate. Ideally, every library that is a public library has some form of public archive in it, whether it's obituaries or like a town census. Going to a library, hopefully you'll be able to find some sort of first person's accounts and history of where you're at. Also, as a librarian, I'd be really excited to see like someone this kid's age looking at these archives, because usually like in terms of digital literacy, it's really hard to find those accounts. So it would just be exciting to have this kid know that we have these resources available for them to use. Alright, ominous singing in the library. Again, probably would be discouraged because it's disrupting the patrons. The librarian is leering at this kid, and that's not appropriate. Just saying. What this librarian is doing is not good. So we're at like the basement of the library, and if you're lucky, your library is big enough to have a basement. Our library isn't that big. But I will say, in terms of accuracy, the material that this library has is pretty accurate. I would say in terms of how the librarian's gonna act, hopefully not as creepy as this librarian who is obviously possessed by Pennywise and is not actually a librarian. One of the most stereotypical scenes when you tell someone that you're going to go to library school is the library cop scene from Seinfeld. It's kind of a given that we're going to talk about this scene.
Coffee?
Yeah, coffee.
No, I don't drink coffee.
Yeah, you don't drink coffee? How about instant coffee?
No, I don't have.
You don't have any instant coffee?
All right, so off the bat, so this is one thing that me and the library cop have in common. I like to be pretty caffeinated at work, so I'll usually have tea or coffee before work, just because that's how I can handle working with a bunch of patrons.
Crystals, you put it in the cupboard, you forget about it. And later on, when you need it, it's there. It lasts forever. It's freeze-dried. Freeze-dried crystals.
I'll say that this guy, in terms of interpersonal skills, is not very good. And when you work in the public, even if you are like a library cop, you want to be able to like be generally likable, and this guy is not. Also, there's no such thing as a library cop, and we can go into that a little bit later in the scene on how inaccurate this portrayal is, especially now.
Bad year for America. Hippies burning library cards. Abby Huffman telling everybody to steal books.
All right, hippies never burn library cards. And also, if your library card is over, or if your book is overdue for more than like 2 years, we're probably forgiving you for that charge. You might need to pay that back, but you certainly won't get hounded down by some library cop. Also, most public libraries have this awesome thing now where we don't have overdue fines. Now, what I'm trying to say is like the library cop's job is kind of obsolete and super inaccurate.
Sarah, the kind of music he listens to, rock was never my bag. But you put on a pair of shoes when you walk into the New York Public Library, fella.
Look, Mr. Bookman.
I will say also, in all of my interpersonal skills classes that they make you take when you are in library school, that the one thing that they tell you never to do is to point at a patron. And this guy has been pointing at Jerry so much, it's like alarming.
You're a comedian. You make people laugh. I try. You think this is all a big joke, don't you?
I'll also say that we have a first time forgiveness thing. So like this is the only time that Jerry's like said that he's returned the book. So we have the benefit of the doubt for the patrons. So if they say they've returned the book and this is their first time that it's on their record, then we just say that you've returned the book and we dismiss this from your record. So all in all, is this a hilarious portrayal? Of course. Is this an accurate portrayal? No. End of story. So we're going to end this video with one of my favorite portrayals of libraries, and it is the scene from Matilda where she goes to the public library.
The next morning, after her parents...
Do I want Danny DeVito to narrate my life? Absolutely. Alright, if you're like 2 years old, you probably should go with a parent or guardian. So Matilda's kind of walking into what is stereotypically kind of known as a Carnegie library, which the history behind Carnegie libraries is really interesting, and we won't go into that in this video. But they are very beautiful to look at, so young people and old people walking into a Carnegie library, this would be really exciting to walk into.
Where are the children's books, please?
In that room right over there. Would you like me to pick you out one with lots of pictures in it?
What the librarian's doing here is a reference interview, and I think I would never assume that the kid who is asking for children's books would want one with lots of pictures, I would ask them maybe a little bit of a more directed question on what the kid is interested in, rather than assume what their reading level is.
Who had been watching her with fascination for the past few weeks, offered Matilda some valuable library information.
You know, you could have your very own library card, and then you could take books home.
Now, Mrs. Phelps, why didn't you offer her this valuable information the moment that she walked up to your desk? So, like, we've been watching this, like, really kind of moving montage of Matilda coming into the library, like, week after week to pick up handfuls of books. And Mrs. Phelps didn't give her a library card. She just made Matilda come in, read the books, put them back at the library, and leave. Like, it is kind of protocol when somebody comes into the library that you make sure that they have a library card if that's something that they're interested in having. I do love this line, though.
These books gave Matilda a hopeful and comforting message. You are not alone.
And I mean, as cheesy as that is, that's how, like, in the Utopia universe that people kind of think of as library, we do want patrons to feel like they're not alone when they're reading our books. And one way that you can do that is by making sure that your patrons leave the first time that they come in with the library card. I love this movie. I love everything about Matilda, and I love how books in this movie and in the book itself are kind of seen as symbols of hope for Matilda to kind of use as a life raft. So those have been 4 portrayals of libraries and kind of my take on how I feel about them. Again, this is my own personal sometimes hot takes on that. But if you liked what you saw, you can feel free and comment below maybe a video or a book that has a portrayal of a librarian in it that I should review next. And I'd love to make a potential series of these videos. Again, this has been Dog-Eared Musings. I'm Monica. Thanks for watching. Happy reading. And get your library card!